just some of the challenges we've faced in terms of what we do in terms of our own investing, and I like to use the word reality. The banking has been a nightmare. Anyone that's dealt with an American bank, it's easier to buy a gun than it is to open a bank account. It's probably easier to kill someone than it is to open a bank account. It's ridiculous. So we work hard with Wells Fargo. It's a constant ongoing battle. I know Yaku's had some really good success with SunTrust as well in terms of opening people bank accounts from here so that they don't have to go over. But it's been a constant challenge, and I presume it will be a constant challenge for the rest of our lives knowing the American banks. The other problem we had was the valuations. When you go on the internet, it's very disconcerting because you put in the zip codes and you find properties, and suddenly you're buying a property for 110,000, and you look on the internet and there's values of 52 and 79 and 76 and 20, and you think to yourself, what is going on? And you really think, right, these scallops from South Africa are raping me. So what Brett and I did in May after everyone else left, we had $1 million in the bank, we had an American bank account, we had an American cell phone, and a week before we got to Atlanta, we went on the Trulios and the websites, and we put in, we got hold of every single person. Most of them, about 18 of these properties that are on here, were actually from Realty Track, which is a company, it's just like a marketing company of properties that are in foreclosure. They're still in the foreclosure process. They've been going for, I think the worst was about 4 years in terms of the process. And you know, when you're reading all these articles, you can't think that just suddenly we're going to magically find it. We were amazed that even though we send to agents, we have $1 million in the bank cash, it's an American bank account, we can close fast, we've got an American cell phone number, and we'll be there in a week. And guess how many calls we got? Naught. So we keep going to our partners. This happens, I know Tony, you asked the question I think to Brendan, and we asked the guys, you know, you do find stuff on the ground, and our partners say, go and try and get it. You know, and our kind of attitude, you know, we got a huge amount of comfort that in terms of what you see on the internet and the reality is very different in terms of the market. And it's just important to understand that in terms of what is happening. And if you don't believe it or trust it, come with us.
Yeah, when we arrived in Atlanta, John Chin was driving us around because we arrived about a day before some of the other people. And we were checking some stuff out, and we told him the story. We said, listen, you know, we did this and we did this, and he's like, yo, but everybody's got $1 million at the moment. The agents don't even respond to that type of stuff anymore, which is very weird because you've got the one side where nobody's buying anything, and then you've got the other side where the hedge funds and the guys are coming in, and nobody responds to you if you've got $1 million. And they're like, we can close fast, we want to have a look at whatever opportunities you have available, and the guys just point blank ignore you.
And it's not even just that. To add to that, this is a real life story. There was a lady that came to the extravaganza. She bought a property, and then she went on the internet. She found something cheaper down the road. We got hold of RJ. We asked about the property. He said, "Oh, I know exactly that property. It's called a short sale, which means it's going through the foreclosure process. I actually personally have it under contract." So she was buying a property from him for about 110. This one was down the road for about, I think 85 was the exact number. So she said, well, can I buy it off you? And he said, yes, I'll be able to bring it to you for somewhere between 100 and 140. I haven't been into the property, but I know that I normally spend between $13,000 and $15,000, so free somewhere between 100 and 140. And she flipped her lid and pulled out and everything else. That same property we found out 2 weeks ago, he decided not to buy it because in America you've got a thing called title. And there was bad debt on the title, and that debt stays with the company. Stays with the property.
Yeah.
Okay, that property was sold on auction 2 weeks ago for $130,000, including the bad debt. Okay, and then whoever bought that property still has to go and organize to get it renovated, etc., and then provide a management solution and everything else. So there's a huge amount else included in it. Okay,
and cleaning up a title can take 6 months, a year. It's a fight that you really don't want to take on if you don't have to. Buying something with clean title means you actually own it. It's yours. If you've got title insurance over it, if anything does crop up, it means that the title insurance will pay out against that debt instead of you, but it needs to be clean when you buy it. So it's a very important point.
Just this was an article, I don't know if it was, I think it was after you guys left, Peter and Tony and the guys that were there. This was actually in the Atlanta newspaper about how difficult it is for buyers to buy property. And the tips were, if you want a house, make an offer quickly, there's a good chance it'll be off the market if you wait. Don't lowball the asking price, it's no longer a buyer's market, and other buyers often offer more. In America, rather than it being below the asking price, generally you pay anywhere up to 25% more than what you see sorry, normally about 25% more, make it off cleaner without a lot of contingencies. So I mean, that was the local newspaper telling people how to buy properties. I'm just trying to explain to you the demand in terms of where we're at. And then lastly, in terms of the process, and this is credit to Brendan and Yaku's been doing a huge amount of work. We've struggled also in America because every single place is different. Every management agent is different. All the processes are different. So we've worked. Every state, basically. So we've wanted to invest in these different areas, and we've kept getting tripped up. So we as a company have actually have really worked hard in terms of process flow. And I mean, this Brendan's built a very detailed process flow of all the different procedures in terms of getting the setup, sourcing the property, closing the property, and then the after sales. And we've also upskilled in terms of Yaku's worked with upskilling our team to make sure that things don't fall through the cracks. And we can provide the support on our side in terms of.
So can I ask you a question? Does anybody see any value in having a company set up offshore that you can actually hold money in if you don't even buy a property? Anyone? Yeah, do you see the value in actually having a structure overseas that you can at least move some money over, even if you don't do anything with it, you know it's overseas and it's there. I see that kind of value massively, even if I don't buy a property with it. It just means that I can fly over there and I can use my own Wells Fargo or Bank of America credit card or whatever the case may be.
And start building a credit rating.
Start building a credit rating, which is extremely important for me as well. But if there is value in that, then seriously guys, come and see us afterwards. We're going to be sitting here. Let's get at least the company set up done and move some money overseas so that you are empowered by having that over there. You can do what you want to with it, but at least that's sorted for you.
Just to explain, sorry Brendan, I mean very slightly, it's not too complicated or complex. If it's not an American company, if it's an island company, for example, or a Mauritian company or something like that,
yeah.
Is it more difficult or I should say, is it easier to do it through a company like that than through a South African entity? Or does it have to be American?
Well, in terms of being able to take advantage of the US market, it's best to have an American entity. What you want to try and avoid as much as possible legally is withholding tax. So if you've got an offshore trust, for example, if it's not in Mauritius, Mauritius is a key country for a particular reason. We spent a lot of money with Grant Thornton to check all of this stuff out. And Mauritius popped up as an option if you're going to hold an offshore company there as a holding company for your LLC in the States. The basic thing is you still have to have an LLC in the States. That's the bottom line. Whatever you put above or below it starts determining what your tax liability is going to be. If you've got a South African trust, for example, immediately there's going to be 30% withholding tax on anything that you do. And you're liable for that. So it's extremely important to make sure that you're aware of that. If you're doing it in Mauritius, there's a way to bring it back to South Africa with only a 5% withholding. But then the administration cost of that starts becoming like, well, how big is my portfolio to offset the administration cost of that holding company in Mauritius? Because if I've got my LLC over there, I know it's going to cost me about $100 a month. I'm happy with that. If I've got to do admin on two and do bookkeeping on two and pay accountants on two, all of a sudden my portfolio's got to be bigger to warrant that extra cost.
Guys, can I butt in there? I'm conscious of time for everyone, and I think we can talk about the structuring for forever. Okay, and we're going to sit at this table afterwards if anyone wants to come and ask questions on the structuring. One thing I will say that I learned about America that's awesome: there's no transfer fees. So if you invest in London or Australia, get your ducks in a row before you buy the house, because if you then get the wrong structure, you've got to pay stamp duty every time. In America, it's called a quit claim deed. It costs about $150. So like Brendan said, buy a new LLC, and then you can worry about the structure above, whether it's Mauritius, England, Isle of Man, St. Lucia, whatever, afterwards, you know what I mean? But actually it's really easy, in 6 months' time you decide, it's completely wrong, I'm going to change it, it costs you $150 to change it, you know what I mean? So
I would say that the base is the LLC, get that sorted, and you can always adjust and move around from that LLC afterwards.